Millennials traded their spine for a Spotify couples playlist. For decades, men were programmed to believe that validation must come from the outside, specifically from women. Millennials, growing up in the thick of romantic comedies, hookup culture, and social media dependency, became a generation conditioned to chase approval rather than purpose. They sacrificed their time, money, and self-worth on the altar of companionship, often for little to no reciprocity. This led to a hollow masculinity, performative rather than principled. Gen Z, in contrast, is rejecting the outdated idea that a man's worth is tied to how many women he can impress, choosing instead to define value internally.
Ah, yes, because every millennial relationship was just a tragic symphony of crying over unread texts and buying overpriced brunches in hopes of love. The truth? Millennials navigated dating without half the digital awareness or tools Gen Z now enjoys. They pioneered the emotional conversations Gen Z men now use to ghost people more consciously. They weren't weak. They were beta testers for the emotional intelligence you now take for granted. Put some respect on the Wi-Fi deprived struggle.
Self-improvement is the new courtship. Where once men were encouraged to chase relationships, Gen Z men are chasing progress. They're redirecting that energy toward their passions, their health, and their goals. It's not about being anti-love. It's about being pro-self. Why pursue relationships where you're merely tolerated when you can build a life where you're celebrated? This shift in focus isn't a retreat from connection. It's a recalibration. When you evolve past needing approval, you become the chooser, not the chosen.
You swapped I love you for I love leg day. Gen Z's obsession with self-improvement would be noble if it wasn't also being used as a convenient escape from vulnerability, accountability, or, God forbid, meaningful connection. You're not above dating. You're just scared of the parts you can't control. And spoiler, six-pack abs won't fix emotional constipation.
Sacrifice means nothing without appreciation. Sacrifice is noble, but blind sacrifice is foolish. Too many men of past generations were conditioned to give endlessly in relationships, mistaking endurance for love. What they received in return, more often than not, was conditional appreciation or transactional affection. Gen Z men are waking up to the fact that mutual respect must be the foundation, not one-sided compromise. Sacrifice is only honorable when it is recognized, valued, and most importantly, reciprocated.
So now we're treating love like a Costco membership, only worth it if the rewards outweigh the costs. This obsession with reciprocity as ROI forgets a basic truth. Not everything is transactional. Sometimes, yes, you give more. Sometimes they do. That's not a flaw, that's a relationship. If your deepest fear is giving more than you receive, maybe you're not ready to give at all.
The blue pill. Comfortable, compliant, castrating. To be blue-pilled is to live in a comforting delusion, one where you believe that doing everything right guarantees romantic fulfillment. That's the trap many men fell into, thinking that being agreeable, emotionally available, and nice would automatically make them deserving of love. But this isn't how human nature works. Gen Z men are unplugging from that illusion, understanding that attraction isn't earned through servitude, but through authenticity, boundaries, and self-respect.
Let's cut the act. Blue-pilled just means you're not emotionally stunted. Heaven forbid a man be emotionally open, cooperative, and kind. If we keep calling that weak, we'll keep producing men who are allergic to empathy and terrified of softness. The red pill to blue pill dichotomy isn't wisdom. It's cosplay for insecure dudes who want a philosophical excuse to be emotionally unavailable.
Situationships over Simpdom. Enter the era of the situationship, a loose, often undefined form of relationship that reflects the modern landscape. While critics view it as emotional laziness, the philosophical gamer sees it as pragmatic connection. These arrangements allow both individuals to explore connection without the weight of expectation or performance. It's dating reimagined for a generation that values personal freedom over artificial structure. Why lock yourself into something traditional when you can build something that reflects who you actually are?
You can dress it up in all the anti-establishment language you want. Fluid, undefined, no labels, just vibes. But a situationship is just commitment phobia with a social media filter. It's fine to avoid traditional models, but don't pretend ambiguity is virtuous. If you can't communicate your intentions, don't call it freedom. Call it what it is, emotional IKEA furniture with no instruction manual and missing screws.
Masculinity, reforged, not rejected. Masculinity isn't toxic, it's just been misapplied. Gen Z men aren't abandoning masculinity, they're refining it. Strength doesn't mean dominance, it means self-mastery. Leadership isn't about control, it's about direction. Emotional awareness doesn't make you weak, it makes you unbreakable. The new masculinity is assertive without being aggressive, reflective without being passive. And crucially, it's defined by the man himself, not by tradition, not by women, and definitely not by outdated societal roles.
The philosophical gamer wants to reforge masculinity, but somehow it always ends up sounding like an excuse to avoid any behavior that might be labeled emotional. Real masculinity isn't avoiding weakness, it's learning to carry it. It's not assertiveness without aggression if you shut down when someone asks how you feel. What's being pitched here is just stoicism, the startup version. No heart, all hustle.
Relationships are optional, not essential. Perhaps the most revolutionary idea embraced by Gen Z men is this: you do not need a romantic relationship to be complete. Companionship can be beautiful, but it is no longer the central storyline of a man's life. Fulfillment is found in purpose, passion, and peace. And if a partner aligns with that path, great. But if not, the journey continues undisturbed. That, in itself, is freedom.
Ah yes, the monk era, where Gen Z men heroically renounce relationships and retreat to their caves of crypto, creatine, and curated playlists. Sounds noble, right? Until you realize it's just loneliness in a leather jacket. We're social creatures. Trying to eliminate the desire for connection isn't transcendence, it's delusion. Wanting someone to share your life with doesn't make you weak. Pretending you don't, that's the real loss of power.
The philosophical gamer isn't preaching nihilism, he's preaching autonomy. His version of modern masculinity is stripped of neediness, shaped by purpose, and grounded in clarity. He's not anti-woman, he's pro-self. And in a world full of noise, confusion, and conflicting narratives, Gen Z men, according to him, are finally learning to play the game on their own terms.
Final smackdown. The philosophical gamer wraps fear of rejection in a toga and calls it wisdom. But all that talk about self-focus and independence masks the same old fear of being hurt, being vulnerable, or not being in control. True strength? It's the ability to care without losing yourself. And Gen Z doesn't win the dating game by quitting it. They win by showing up and playing it well.